Hey guys, what's up? So I finally got to making this video, and if I do another Game of Thrones versus, would you rather have me do Daemon Targaryen versus Aemond Targaryen, or Jon Snow versus Daemon? Please tell me by commenting. I might do a poll as well. Anyways, please like this video and subscribe. I will always appreciate it if you do. And check out some of my other videos as well, please. Let's start off with weaponry. Oberyn used a very long but otherwise pretty standard spear made from wood, and the sharp tip was covered in poison. I'm not sure if he would normally use the spear with poison because I don't think there's anybody he fought that he hated more than the Mountain. But let's just say he would, because the effects of the poison won't even start until after the fight is done if Grey Worm survives. He also used a light sword, which he was very skilled with. He also used a shield, and he knew how to use knives and was pretty good with standard sword. The Unsullied practiced daily with their shields and a short sword. Grey Worm, on the other hand, used a pretty standard spear and used a shield, but occasionally used a knife. I'm going to give this category to Grey Worm by just a little bit. Next up is intelligence and battle IQ. Oberyn is considered to be one of the most intelligent men in the Seven Kingdoms and was a maester at the Citadel and studied poison. He also knew a great deal about the human body, which he used to his advantage, as he knew all too well where to strike to get efficient results. His battle IQ was extremely high, from what we see, and targeted the weak spots of his opponents and used a weapon perfect for the fight. He also taunted his opponents to throw them off guard, and was pretty effective as well. Grey Worm wasn't dumb, but he wasn't very knowledgeable, because the Unsullied only learned about fighting, so it's pretty tough to gouge his intelligence, but I don't think he was very close to Oberyn at all. Grey Worm strategically was pretty smart. His battle IQ was very high. He was quick thinking and always made the right moves in a fight. He knew many different ways to dispatch an enemy and use them in the perfect moments, but he was still a good margin behind Oberyn Martell in this category. Now on to armor. Oberyn's armor was not very strong and his head wasn't protected at all. I doubt it would stop him from being stabbed, but could stop a light hit. But because his opponent is using a spear, anything but a direct stab would most likely be stopped by his armor. Grey Worm had a leather vest, you could call it, which wouldn't really do much to protect him in this fight, but he used a shield which makes up for it. And he had a helmet, but he didn't always wear it. Armor goes to Oberyn by a pretty good margin. Next up is experience. We don't really know the full extent of Oberyn's fighting experience, but since he is so good and is highborn and loves to fight, it seems he probably started at a pretty young age, similar to, say, Bran, who had been learning how to fight for a while at the age of 10. But he really learned most of what he knows from his time as a second son or in the fighting pits of Essos. His time in Essos developed his skills as a warrior to where they are. He even saw the Unsullied fight, which could be a pretty important factor in this fight. He was also very experienced with many different weapons, like a traditional sword or a light sword and knives. Grey Worm was the leader of the Unsullied and their best fighter. They started training at the age of 5. It was very strict and rigid training daily. He was amazing with the spear and great with a shield. I'm going to give this category to Grey Worm due to him having rigorous training and tests and battles for decades. Let's get into skill. Oberyn is obviously incredibly skilled with a spear. He was able to defeat the Mountain with one relatively easily and quickly, while mocking him and joking around and actively blaming him for his sister's death and going on a rant. He used it with many flashy moves and with much speed and a good amount of strength, and was very calculating, and really, he had mastered the weapon. He was also very proficient with a knife, once again due to his speed. He was very good with a light sword, and it was one of his preferred weapons. He was pretty good with a traditional sword, but not on par with the likes of Jaime Lannister or Barristan Selmy. Grey Worm was not quite as good with his spear as Oberyn, but was much better with a shield. He was able to easily kill many men when outnumbered dozens of times, and was able to throw a spear with amazing accuracy. But I'm going to give skill to Oberyn. The last category is physical prowess. Physically, Oberyn looked pretty average, a bit thin, and a little muscular. He wasn't very strong, but by no means was he weak. He was incredibly fast and agile, to the point of making the Mountain look like a joke, and he was very acrobatic in battle, especially when showing off. Grey Worm was pretty strong, especially for his size. He was very durable and survived stab wounds and other grave injuries, and he was pretty quick as well. So I'm going to say Oberyn takes speed, but loses in durability, and strength. So overall, I will give this category to Grey Worm. So here's the setup for the fight. Grey Worm and Oberyn are fighting one another in the tourney. Both are fresh. It is Oberyn from Season 4 when he fights the mountain and has his spear and his armor, and Grey Worm in Season 8 with his spear and shield with his helmet. The fight is to the death. Grey Worm marches forward, spear pointed at Oberyn, shield ready to defend. Oberyn quickly jabs at him, and Grey Worm blocks. Oberyn continues his attack with a flurry of swings with his deadly weapon. Grey Worm hits Oberyn's stomach with the wooden end of his spear and slides his shield through the air in a barrage of attempts at a strike, so Oberyn ducks and dodges each and every one. Oberyn slides his spear into the side of Grey Worm and pulls it back, slicing his leg. Oberyn spins his blade through the air in a show of skill when Grey Worm presses onward with many quick and strong jabs from his spear, and Oberyn takes a few quick steps back. Oberyn then takes a few steps forward and moves his spear quickly towards Grey Worm and behind his shield, pulling it back when Grey Worm moved his spear towards Oberyn's chest, which he blocked and spun his spear, and Grey Worm's weapon left his hand. And Oberyn attempted stabbing him, so he blocked with his shield and pushed his shield with all his might. Oberyn is briefly pushed back and Grey Worm grabs his spear. He presses onward with his attack. Oberyn spins his spear and dips it down under Grey Worm's shield and flips his shield up and continued his attack. Oberyn quickly twirls and jumps while Grey Worm hits him with the wooden end of his spear once again, but on the head this time. He stumbled back and dodges a jab towards his chest and spins and stabs the back of his thigh. Grey Worm turns around, quickly slicing Oberyn's shoulder with his spear. Oberyn groans and begins to spin around his blade again. When Grey Worm strikes, Oberyn sidesteps and spins and impales him deeply, killing him. Oberyn Martell wins. So just a quick question. Would you guys like these verses? Because, you know, I'm doing them with categories now. I just did the Jurassic Park one with categories. So would you like them to be longer and like have more categories? Because I think I could figure something out. Or would you rather have them shorter? Because I like to make them like longer, like 10, 12 minute, you know what I mean? Instead of like 6, 7, 8 minutes, which is what this was close to being. But yeah, just tell me, please comment. But anyways, going into this, I thought it would be closer, but Oberyn really is just on another level skill-wise. It wouldn't be easy though, probably like mid-difficulty. But anyways, tell me what you think about what this versus would look like, and what versus you would like to see next. And I hope you guys enjoyed, and please subscribe, as it really does help, and I will see you guys later.